Velkommen til deel 4 av denne serien som reconstruerer proto-germanske navn på provinser. Denne gangen skal vi rette fokuset mot Norge og dets historiske landsdeler. Jeg vil gjerne poengtere at formålet med denne videoen ikke er å fastslå hvordan mennesker som snakket jødisk for 2000 år siden betegnet områdene de bodde i. Det finnes ingen skriftlige kilder, så det vi vil aldri kunne si med sikkerhet. Denne studien prøver kun å oversette moderne navn på landområdene til proto-germansk. For å ha det gøy på annet nivå, kommer jeg til å snakke Anglish, som du vet en halvgermansk versjon av engelsk, så mye som mulig. Let's start with Oslo. Two beholdings often come up when talking about Oslo's word lore. The latter deal is unmuted. Lo means meadow, in Theodisco, lauchas. This word is kin to Latin lucus, which means hollow grove. The former cut, os, can mean three things in Old Norse: a beam, a rocky ridge, and is also the one-fold word of the word Aesir, thus meaning one god. As the meadow with the beam seems unlikely, Oslo could mean two things: Ansulauchas, the god's meadow, or Amsalauchas. This is very weird for a Theodisco speaker, as Amsa means shoulder. Old Norse speakers somehow thought rocky ridges looked like shoulders. But who am I to say how these hills looked after a bite of Fleogoswamas? Akershus. Hus means house, husa in the old tongue. And aker means, well, an acre, which used to mean a field even in English. Akras in Theodisco. Akras husa, the field's house. Østfold og Vestfold. Fuldo is another word for a field in Theodisco. So Østfold is the eastern field, Austra Fuldo. And Vestfold, well,
where was Gondor when the Westfold fell?
Finnmark, Finnmarko. Finnas is the old name of the Sami folk who still dwell in the northlands of Scandinavia to this day. Marko just means land. Mark was also an English word until a few hundred years ago and bore the same meaning, but is now foreolded. Finnmarko, the land of the Sami. Troms. This name stems from Tromsøya, which is an island. The most widespread understanding of this root is that it stems from Proto-Germanic straumas, meaning stream or river. Øya means island, Aujo in Theodisco. Tromsøya thus means the island with the stream. In Theodisco, this name would be Straumaujo. Nordland. This is straightforward, Nordfralanda, the Northland. The old name of these northern lands was Hålogaland and held in both Nordland and a deal of Troms. Hålogaland's root is mooted, but the name shows up in early Norse sagas, as seen in Thorstein's saga Vikingsonar, written in the 13th or 14th century, and also in the name Ottar fra Hålogaland, who was a 9th century Norwegian seafarer. The word lore of the name Hålogaland is rather unclear, but is sometimes thought to stem from the words hå, an Old Norse word for high, loga, which means fire or blaze, itself from Proto-Indo-European leuk, which means shine. Hålogaland could mean the land of high fire, and could be bound to the northern lights that can easily be spotted in that area. Although very lethy, this beholding is deemed unlikely by scholars. In Ottar's story, it is written that his home was Halgoland. If you want to read it yourself, there's a link to the text in the retching below. The text is in early 10th century Old English, but since you're listening to me talk about Proto-Germanic, I know you'll be fine with this. This is a good time to talk about the word lore of the name of this fair land, home to our northernmost Germanic brothers, Norway. This book seems to be the first known time Norway, Northweg, was written down. Northweg means the way of the north, the northern path. There were also Suðurvegar, used to name Germany and the Netherlands, and Austravegar for the Baltic lands, and Russia. In Theodisco, Noregar would be Northravegas. In the same story, you can find Nordmannaland, the land of the Northmen. This name isn't found in Scandinavia nowadays, but its legacy goes on in the name of a former Northman settlement in France, Normandy. Trøndelag. Lag means law, laga in Theodisco.
This ending can also be found in a Norse settlement in the British Isles called the Danelaw. Trønde likely stems from the word thruwena or threwana, which means to grow or to thrive, and the suffix ndz, which makes an agent noun from verbs. Hence, Trøndelag is the law of those growing things, farmers. In Sudisko, Threwanslaga. Romsdal. Roms stems from the river Rauma. Further word lore is unknown. Some link it to Sudisko rumas, meaning
White gale.
Todayish Norwegian word stemming from rumas is rum, which still means space. However, rumas became rum in Old Norse, not raum, so this round remains whole. Romsdals will have to be Raumasdala in Sudisko.
Møre. Mør was the Old Norse name of the land. It was also a noun that meant sea. This stems from Theodisko mari, which broadly names a body of water. In Old Norse, its manifold dative turns into mørum, which could retch the kleppen shift. It could mean in the seas, hinting towards the land's many fjords. In Theodisko, marimas. Another beholding, all such likely, comes from Old Norse mør, which means moor or bog. This word stems from Theodisko moras. Vestland, Westralanda, the Westland. Three older lands blended to give birth to this mark. Hordaland, Sogn og Fjordane. Hordaland. Its Old Norse name was Hördaland, itself from the Herdar folk. From here it gets harder. The word lore of this Swedish name is mooted. Some say it comes from the Old Norse word harder, meaning hard or hardy, itself from Theodisko hardus, which also means bold. This could be a retching of those Steedsman's urds. If so, Hordaland would be Hardulanda in Theodisko. Others link this folk's name to the Heruds, a Germanic folk that Caesar said dwelled on the western side of Cimbria, a land we now call Eutalanda. The Heruds would have fared towards what is now called Hordaland and gave it their name. Further word lore for this steed's name is unknown.
Fjordane is manifold for fjord, fjardarna in Old Norse, firþivo in Theodisko. I used the genitive here for the land owns those fjords, and ownership triggers the genitive in all Germanic languages. Sogn. Those big fjords had mighty streams in them, and could easily suck the ships away to a swift death, hence the name Sogn, which comes from Old Norse suga, which means to suck, sugana in Theodisko.
Inlandet, the inland, Inlanda. This land is also a blend of two former shires, Oppland and Hedmark. Oppland. We've already talked of this name in an earlier tape, as another Uppland stands in Sweden. Uppland was its Old Norse name and meant the upper lands in manifold. In Theodisko, Upplando. Hedmark. What we know is that the former deal stems from Old Norse heiðr, which can mean three things: bright or cloudless, ore and heath, all of which can retch the landscape of this land. As I've never been there, I'd rather give all three Theodisko names for you, and those living there will get to tell which one they'd rather. Heidramarko, the bright land. Heiðimarko, the heathland. I said heiðr also meant ore. This word comes from Theodisko haidus. Haidus is mostly a suffix that gave English hood, Dutch, Frisian, Icelandic and German heit, and Danish, Norwegian and Swedish het. It's hard to find a standalone meaning for this word. Anyway, Heidumarko. Rogaland. The name is often linked to the Rugi folk, who seems to have moved around a lot during the late Roman Rich and very early Mid-Eld. As many akin names can be found throughout Europe. What most Authwits swear on is that the name stems from Theodisko Rugis, which means rye. This might hint us towards their feeding ones. In Theodisko, we could call this shire Rugilanda, the land of rye. Agder. This name remains roundy and is open only to guesswork. Its Old Norse name was Agdir, and no Old Norse word comes close to it. Sadly, I cannot give you a sicker Theodisko name for this land. However, I like good riddles and will try anyway. Ögn means on in Old Norse, Agano in Theodisko. This word is tied to rye, thus linking its name to Rogaland, which neighbors Agder to the west. The suffix th is used to form abstract nouns, with thir being its manifold. My guess for Agder's Theodisko name would thus be Achanithos, the land marked by awns. Another beholding is that Agder could come from Thudisco word agitho, meaning harrowed land. Either way, Agder's name is strongly bound to tilth. Telemark, one more name stemming from a fern folk called the Thelir. We don't know much more about further word lore. If we take a look at all Old Norse words that begin with thel, we get a few mightlihoods, such as wool, planks, frozen ground, pine trees, and ice hose. If we linguistically reconstruct thel into Thudisco, we get thela, which means floor or plank. Anyway, thelo Marco, the land of the plank, the pine trees, or the frozen ground. Wait, telemark, planks, frozen ground, and pine trees? Are we talking about skiing here? Buskerud, in Old Norse, its name was Biskupruth. Biskup means a bishop, and if we calk its fern Greek word Loric root, episkopos, into Thudisco, we get uberspachons, the overlooker. The latter deal, rudiana, means to clear in Thudisco. A clearing in the woods could be ruda or rudas. Buskerud thus could be uberspachons ruda, the clearing of the overlooker. Thank you for having followed me on this fare through Norway's fern lands and word lore. Be sure to like, underwrite, and leave a post underneath this tape.